welcome to your Wednesday. This is not the way you want to start it, but, top of the day, a shooting investigation going on here in the city of Beaumont. We're going to get into some of the headlines this morning. Glad you're starting your day with us. Maybe you're not starting. Maybe you're well into your day. I know I'm well into mine. And if that is the case, either way, appreciate you taking a couple of minutes joining me here at the house. And yeah, that's exactly where we are. We are at the house this morning. And as you can see, inside mi casa, which is kind of sloppy, messy this morning. I need to tidy up a bit more. But again, this room serves not only the function as kind of a home broadcast studio, but also as a home art studio. So yeah, various and sundry about here. By the way, again, my name is Dan Gresham. This is my house. You're more than welcome to weigh in on anything we do. This is a Facebook Live. This is a stream on YouTube, so you can comment if you want. All you have to do is go to the bottom of the page, same thing you would do any other Facebook post, and you can post up. I can see them here at my house, so we can communicate back and forth. If you have a question, post it. I'll see what I can do to answer it. It's just that simple. Are you ready for some cold weather? I got a feeling a lot of people would be shaking their head yes. They're probably saying, what happened? We've got through the Christmas, holiday, and we had no cold weather really to speak of. Prior to several days, we had some cool-ish weather, but get ready because we're about to have some truly winter weather, and appropriately enough, it will happen shortly after the new year once we get into January, and we are talking about temps. I don't know if you've seen it. Let me just show it to you real quick, and that way maybe it will satisfy those who have not seen the forecast. So let me find it. There it is right there. So take a look at this. Now, currently we're at 74 degrees, some light showers out there here and there. But as you look on down the line, here's Wednesday, 81, Thursday, 81, Friday, 80, Saturday, 78. And look at this cliff that we fall off of. 78 for a high on Saturday, 44. That is the high. That's not the overnight low. That is the high on Sunday with rain chances. But the real significant rain chance is going to come on Saturday. So I'm already thinking one of those chores that I need to do is to make sure I've got some wood up underneath shelter so that it stays dry if I want to burn the fireplace, which we will if it's 44 degrees on Sunday. Sounds like my kind of day, right? Just kind of spend some time inside enjoying the fireplace and each other's company. So just want to give you a heads up off the very top that that's maybe something that you need to take care of. But it also is the opportunity, to wear some of those clothes you got for Christmas. Somebody bought you a sweater. Somebody got you a nice new, coat. You better wear it when you can in Southeast Texas because you can go entire winters where you never really need that down coat or that parka or that brand new, thermal that somebody got you. This is your opportunity to be able to do that. Quick reminder too, not only can I see what you want to communicate this morning, but also I would appreciate it if you would hit us with a like. That's a thumbs up. And then that way we can make sure that we get the word out to a lot of other folks. Sorry, I'm also my own director doing this. So it takes me a few minutes to be able to get everything off the screen. Where are we at? There we go. All right, so let's take a look. Carlene is up with us this morning. Hi, Carlene. Faye Wiley, good morning to you. Chason, always nice to have you with us here at home. Also, Corinthania. Curtis, good morning to you. I'm sorry if I didn't say the name right. Carla Smith. Carla, good morning up in the Big D. How's everybody doing up there? Let me tell you, one of my great joys of Facebook is being able to, and this is the way it started for me, not as a way to express political opinion or a way to be able to talk about things necessarily that were problematic, but just a way to connect with people. And Carla Smith Crow is one of those people, married to my college roommate, who I have not seen in quite some time. But it's the beauty of being able to see those folks, and you see their lives, and they see what's going on in your lives. And I love the fact that I can go and I can see folks is, celebrating life with their grandkids and their kids. It's just too good. Carla, thanks for checking in this morning. Also, Ebony is here this morning. Good morning, Ebony. Nice to have you along for the ride this morning. Carlene says, please bring on the code. Carlene, you're going to get it. Mitzi says, where can we get a COVID home test? Good question. I was reading this morning, Mitzi, where there are still some available online. So if you go to some of the bigger retailers online, and I think you know which one I'm talking about, the Big A, I understand that there are some still available. They are very limited in quantity, so I'm not sure about that. Originally, I know I bought some at a club store, and they were available also at pharmacies across Southeast Texas. But I think at this point, you're probably going to be pretty hard-pressed to find any of those. I think most of them are gone. I do know, talking to folks who have been trying to get tested, that it has not been easy. You know, everywhere they go, the lines are long or the appointments are long, and why that keeps popping up. And it's just not easy to get in to get a test right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry it's that way. But I would suggest before you go anywhere or try to do anything that you call ahead. Save you some time. If it's an appointment-only situation, you can just go ahead and make the appointment. If they don't have any tests, they can tell you, and you don't waste your time going there. But it's, it's testing, but it's also infusion therapy, all those things. And if you're following the stories, and I encourage you, yes, I can tell you about stories. I can point you in that direction, but it's really up to you. You should be the one that's doing the heavy lifting. Go read the stories if you really want to know, if you're really concerned, if you're, risk adverse, if you're one of those people that you just can't get enough, there's lots of information. I've already read probably about 15, 20 stories this morning concerning the Omicron variant and all the different things that are happening to it. But one of the things that we're finding out is that these infusion therapies, not everything works with Omicron. In fact, they're saying 3 out of the therapies that have been used, 3 of them have been used with a great deal of success against Delta. But of those 3, only 2 apparently are working well against the Omicron variant. That being said, it reduces the supply, makes it that much tougher to get. And there is a shortage going on across the country. We've been told that they do still have some of those different therapies at the regional infusion center, as well as some of the hospitals and some of the freestanding centers. So it's there. But you've got to imagine at some point, they're going to start making those tough decisions like, who do we give this to? Do we give it to just anyone who rolls up who says, I tested positive? Or do they give it to the people who say, I'm exhibiting these symptoms? And do you get at some point where they say, okay, we're only going to give it to the people that are showing the worst symptoms? I mean, that's the basic idea, isn't it, of triage medicine? Is that you treat based on need? And at some point, if you're out and you don't have any, then somebody's got to start making those kind of decisions. I'm pretty sure they're already being made at this point. But note that if you want to go to the regional infusion center, you better call, because my understanding is all of their appointment slots have been taken, and they've been taken through Friday. But you can make a call. And again, be aware that they're not the only folks out there doing it as well. All right, so who else is up this morning? Tammy Anderson says, no, I don't like the cold. Faye Wiley says, my craft space is always messy. So is mine. Faye, I can say I'm going to clean it up. I can intend to clean it up, and then I get started on another project, and it just goes back there. Christy Lynn, yes, I get it. You're cold. It's going to be cold. Ebony says, my bones won't be able to take it. I don't think it's going to be that long, the cold spell, Ebony. So just maybe find yourself, a nice warm spot in the house and hang around. Also, Cynthia, good morning to you. Hi, Donna Hicks. Hope your day is off to a good start. Susan Peterson up this morning. Samantha, good morning to you. Hi, Juanita. How's your day? Al, good morning to you as well. And let's see, Valero Delano is up this morning in Orangefield watching. Melody is in Sour Lake. Hi, Melody. James Ellis says, good morning. Thanks for the update. Absolutely. I'm here at the house. Always glad to do it. Ted, good morning to you as well. Hi, Mitzi. The list goes on. Jonathan is watching this morning, and Spurger. And Teresa something is up this morning, and she says good morning as well. All right, so let's jump into it. The purpose of our get-togethers is to talk about what's happening in the headlines, but do it in a very casual manner. so that it's not, this is not a newscast, not intended to be a newscast. This is where you and I can talk and we can expand on things that maybe we only have 10 seconds for in a newscast. We got plenty of time to talk about. Let's start with the headlines that I mentioned earlier, just because it's an overnight story, and that is the shooting investigation underway this morning in Beaumont after a man was found dead in his car in a Citgo service station in the west end of Beaumont. My takeaway from this story, obviously it's sad that we're sitting here talking about, a person that died and a shooting victim and how that affects families and the ripple effect. It's not just the victim, it's the victim's family. I made a promise a long time ago to myself, not one of those you necessarily say out loud, but I made a promise to myself when I started doing this and being journalism, that I was going to try my best not to become cold-hearted, not to be insensitive to what's going on. It's easy to do. You do this for 40 years and you read stories like this every single day. The humanity is gone. I mean, it's just, you're reading the words. Man shot, man killed, looking up at a camera. But I try really hard to make sure that I understand the things that we do affect people. That the words that you say do have power. It's not power like I'm going to take over the world power. It's the power that affects people in their everyday lives. And we need to be careful as journalists. We need to be paying attention to what we say and how we say it and how it amounts. Again, talking to people who are young journalism students or talking to people who are getting into the business and saying, how do you prioritize what news you have and what order the story should come in? My theory, and the way I was taught back in the day at Baylor University, was the story that affects the most people should always be the top story of the day. Well, it's not always the most sensational. It's not always the most dramatic. What affects people more? When you think about the sheer number of people, would it be a shooting or a crime story, or would it be traffic shut down on I-10 because there was a non-injury wreck, but it's going to be closed for 5 hours and all traffic will be diverted? Well, of course, a lot more people are going to be affected by a shutdown of the interstate than people who are going to be directly, and again, I'm not saying it's not a major story, but directly affected by a shooting incident. Now, you can say, yeah, but Dan, that's part of a bigger picture. It comes to crime. It comes to, how we view our city and the place that we live and our mental, all those things play in. There's no doubt about that. And to me, the other thing that you have to take away from a story like that is it's not just the shooter or the shooting victim. It's also the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, the entire family that's affected on both sides. Whether it's the victim or the shooter, they both lost something and or someone. I would suggest they lost both, something and someone in that story. All right, so that is the story we'll follow. We'll update throughout the day, both on air and online. I want to get back to the story again of COVID concerns in Southeast Texas. This is the story I was mentioning about infusion treatment available at Jefferson County. They cannot do 200 a day. They're doing 60 a day now. But you can find out more. Go read this story. Here you go. They're talking about the 3 different types of antibody treatments. But again, only one of the 3, my understanding, one of the 3 is working effectively against the variant. And that is part of a pandemic. Pandemics come in stages. Who would have thought when we started talking about, originally, this coronavirus, novel coronavirus, all those months ago, that we would still be talking about it more than 2 years later? Well, most folks would say, no, we didn't. But if you look historically, if you look back on all the pandemics through history, it should have been obvious to it. And there were many people telling us that it was not going to be something that came in one single wave and it was gone. So now where are we? We are in the middle of the 3rd wave? Let's go to the Texas COVID dashboard, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Here you go. You start the original wave in 19. You get into 20. You start peaking out. These are confirmed cases, tested cases. Kind of, you see it go back into the valley, it comes back up again. When you get into 2021, peaks out. You can also access, this as well as I can. This is Texas Health and Human Services COVID dashboard. Just Google it and you'll find it. But it gives you the ability to go on any one of these, and you can actually click on the dates, and it will show you what, see, there you go. 9/9/21 gives you the number of confirmed cases. But here comes that second, again, you have the first, the second, the third. We're actually in the fourth wave. If you go back and you look at all the pandemics throughout history and throughout the history of the United States, you will find this is very similar. Who would have thought when you read about, that pandemic that, back in the 1800s, and you thought, there's no way, 4 years, there's no way this lasts 4 years. It's not out of the question that it lasts 4 years, but what it looks like is what is going to change, and how we learn to live with it is what is going to change. The good news is about the Omicron variant, and this also is the part and parcel and pattern of pandemics, is that they change with each wave. This particular variant apparently, and it's still a little bit early to say, without doubt, but apparently poses a lot less threat if you were vaccinated, and may pass very quickly. South Africa has already peaked out. They started before Thanksgiving, they had their spike, and now they're starting to trend the other direction quickly. And the hope is that will be the same thing that happens here. And again, you see right there, the news is even, this is USA Today, you can go look it up yourself. News is even better for people with vaccine, although 2 shots are not as protective against Omicron as they were against previous variants. Vaccination and boosting seems to make a big difference in people with healthy immune system. For those with 3 shots who get infected, they seem to suffer just a bad sore throat, some fatigue, muscle pain for a few days, says Craig Spencer, an emergency room physician in New York City. People who've had 2 shots get somewhat worse symptoms, more fatigue, more fever, more coughing, a little more miserable overall, he wrote. And those with just 1 shot, he said, fared worse, feeling horrible for a number of days. Not great, but not life-threatening. And virtually all of those who have been admitted to the hospital are unvaccinated, says Spencer. Everyone with profound shortness of breath, everyone whose oxygen dropped when they walked, everyone needing oxygen to breathe regularly. So again, there's a great spectrum here of how people are affected when it comes to not just the Omicron, but to COVID in general. Not everybody has the same reaction. Not everybody has the same amount of antibodies. Again, you've got to take all those things into consideration. Educate yourself. Educate yourself and then make those decisions. All right. Don't want to keep you much longer, but I do want to get into this story. To me, I think is a good way to end the day. It's a very, very sad story as far as I'm concerned. And that is KOGT, the local AM radio station in Orange, is going to cease operations as of Friday, which would be the end of the year. Gary Stelly, you know how I feel about what you've done there. You know that I'm among those who sit and marvel at the fact that you've been able to make this work for as long as you have. AM radio stations, many people have written them off for years. Said that there's no place for them. Nobody listens to them. Gary Stelly and all the folks there, Gary has owned the station for a number of years, I think going back to 92. And, people said it couldn't be done. You made it work. You made the community understand what you were doing and what your purpose was and what your function was. And you were so integrated into that community. People in Orange, I really think they're going to sorely miss, what happens there on KOGT. But I also can understand from a business perspective what a struggle it must be to try to keep an AM station profitable. And at this point, again, Gary Stelly who does play-by-play, is an excellent play-by-play man, does high school football there and has for years, has made that decision. So Gary, I salute you. I appreciate the work that you do. And I say it's sad because it's another sign of the times as far as media goes, as to where we're at and where we're going. Remember the day when every station, let me just back up and say when every station was owned by a local person, company, and then every show on those radio stations originated locally. Not the case anymore. Many of us spent lots of hours doing local radio. I still love local radio. I love doing talk radio. It changed over the years, not only the content and what people wanted to talk about, but also the format that you did it in, and also the stations that you did. KLVI in Beaumont, great example of an AM station that's still functioning today and still has a strong reach. But it is an uphill battle. It's almost impossible. You look now at radio stations, they are owned by very large organizations for the most part. And because of that, they find it much more efficient to be able to present shows that originate in other cities, and that can be simply, duplicated without any kind of trouble to all their stations. So they own, 1,000, they don't own 1,000, let's say they own 200, 300 radio stations. They just use that one show out of one city on all 300 radio stations. There was a day you and I could sit here and reminisce about all the different people that you used to listen to. Oh, I listened to this person every day when I was driving to school. Or I listened to this guy. There's still a couple of them out there, but few and far between. Few and far between. Of course, Brandon Shaw comes to mind. He's been around for a long time in Southeast Texas doing his morning show. And of course, Al Caldwell, his morning show as well. But then these days, like I said, it's a different world. And I think this kind of is a signal of that. And I think it's probably endemic of a lot of things. It's not just radio. There are other medias that are going through very similar situations as well. But that's just the evolution of the technology and the evolution of the business, I think. Let's see. Kendall Barrow. That's a good point. Kendall wrote in this morning. Let me just pop that up on the screen. It says, it saddens me that larger markets still have some semblance of local radio, whereas markets like ours are falling victim to attrition and corporate decisions. And Kendall, you've done it. Kendall, I will tell you a little secret real quick. Kendall was actually my producer when I did talk radio on KLVI for a period of time. Kendall was my producer. I called him the Uber producer, who sat through the glass and ran all the technical things while I just yammered and took phone calls and, whatever came to mind. And so he knows what he's talking about. And it's true. That, a lot of things work in some larger markets where the dollars are a little bit bigger and they can still generate the money, as opposed to the effort it takes to make money in a smaller market. And I have not spoken to Gary Stelly over at KOGT, so I'm not sure exactly. It could be the fact that he's done it long enough and he's ready to ride off into the sunset. Could be that it just wasn't profitable to continue to do it. But again, whatever it is, he will be missed. All those shows. Who doesn't believe that local is better? Who doesn't believe that someone who lives in the city or lives in an area has a better idea of what's going on in their community? Again, I hope you figured out. We always say shop local if you possibly can. I know it's like, well, but it costs a little bit more. But there's a reason it costs a little bit more. Isn't it worth paying for? That's what you have to ask yourself. And I think all of us find ourselves in a situation sometimes where we just, we let the dollar override everything else in our lives. All right, I got to get out of here. You got to go do some things. I've got things to do. So let's get on with the day. We will be back, of course, bright and early tomorrow morning, but also encourage you, as always, that you can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow on Twitter. Morning TV Dan is my handle. Plus, you can go to YouTube. If you subscribe on YouTube, you will be able to see these updates. I try to post them every day on YouTube as well as Facebook. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, if I didn't get to your comment today, it certainly doesn't mean that I'm not reading them. I am. I see a lot of folks posting up this morning, so I'll try to address those as best I possibly can. Again, go out and make it a terrific day. We'll look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning on KFDM and on Fox 4 as well. And again, appreciate a like. If you've got the time, just give me a thumbs up.